Thank you for standing by, and welcome to the Limeade Investor Update conference call. All participants are in a listen-only mode. There will be a presentation followed by a question-and-answer session. If you wish to ask a question, you will need to press the star key followed by the number 1 on your telephone keypad. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Todd Sparks, CFO. Please go ahead.
Thank you, operator, and thank you all for joining the call today. Limeade CFO Todd Sparks here, providing a summary to our investors of the TINYpulse acquisition announced to the ASX today, and to answer any questions you may have. Because we are 2 days from reporting our second quarter cash flow results and activity to the ASX, we will not be providing any further financial information beyond those related to the acquisition announced today. Joining me today is Henry Albrecht, CEO of Limeade. We are very pleased to announce the acquisition of TINYpulse to our investors today. TINYpulse is a leading employee listening software provider founded in 2012 by David Mew, with the mission to make employees happier. Today, the company serves employees at more than 500 businesses, ranging from startups to the Fortune 500. TINYpulse is based in Seattle, just a few miles away from Limeade headquarters. TINYpulse also has a team of software engineers based in Vietnam. According to IDC's worldwide and U.S. employee experience software and services forecast, listening, as defined by the survey feedback measurement and recognition market, is approximately 3 times bigger than well-being at $33 billion globally, and, like well-being, is expected to grow at 28% compound annual growth over the period 2019 to 2024. These are truly exciting market trajectories. Acquiring TINYpulse will help Limeade further its vision to create a world-class well-being experience that leads to better business results for customers. Additionally, it will give Limeade direct access to mid-market customers looking for an integrated well-being and employee experience solution. Limeade research tells us that listening to, learning from, and acting on employee feedback is a top driver of well-being action. TINYpulse software establishes a two-way dialogue between managers and employees, resulting in a flywheel of input, feedback, and action as a seamless part of the daily workflow. The power of TINYpulse listening functionality increases the ability for Limeade to actively listen and serve employees with the right well-being experiences they need at the moments they need them most. Therefore, the Limeade acquisition of TINYpulse will make us much better at employee listening. In fact, the comprehensive listening capabilities provided by TINYpulse technology will position Limeade as the well-being solution with the best employee listening capabilities in the world. And we plan to use our listening advantage to create immersive well-being solutions that address the unique needs of every Limeade user. Under the terms of the transaction, Limeade will acquire TINYpulse for US $8.8 million in cash, funded from existing cash reserves. The transaction is expected to close by the end of July. TINYpulse ended fiscal year 2020 with continuing revenue of $6.5 million US, with an adjusted EBITDA loss of $1.2 million US. Limeade intends to retain the TINYpulse brand as TINYpulse, a Limeade company. Additional earnouts tied to additional contracted annual recurring revenue, CAR, growth may be payable over the 18 months post-closed. With this transaction, Limeade and TINYpulse will, 1, deliver next-generation employee well-being experiences that fit seamlessly into people's daily work. 2, create a world-class employee experience at our newly united company. And 3, work together to integrate our people and systems patiently and methodically over time. Thanks for listening. I would now like to hand the call over to the operator for the question and answer session.
Thank you. If you wish to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone and wait for your name to be announced. If you wish to cancel your request, please press star 2. If you're on a speakerphone, please pick up the handset to ask your question. Your first question comes from Seth Hoskin of Canaccord Genuity. Please go ahead.
Thanks, operator, and hi, Henry. Hi, Todd. Congratulations on the acquisition. Just a couple of questions from me and just taking a step back, really. So going through the acquisition process, obviously a company that's just down the road from yourselves, but is it a company you've looked at for a while, and do you have any key enterprise customers which use both products? Are you already integrated with it? And I suppose, how do you feel the cultural fit is? It seems kind of like a natural fit. And then just on TINYpulse itself, what are their kind of key industries or verticals that they've sold into? Is it similar to Limeade in terms of healthcare industrials, or is there some sort of industry experience that you can leverage?
Great questions, Seth. I think there were 3 or 4, so if I miss any, please bring them back to the top of the queue. But first of all, we do have some minimal but some overlap in customer base. And then just having known the company, I've known David New, their CEO, since they started the company. He's actually spoken to our employees. We've used their products. We had a partnership announced in 2016. As we built some of our own listening capabilities, we realized we should drink our own Limeade as well. But we've been watching them grow and admired their culture from afar. Sorry for the phone line. It's 9,000 miles of static. Culturally, they're a very strong company, and they actually serve, because I would think about it more as accessing the mid-market directly. They serve industries, every industry, and there's no major concentration. So very strong culture, very well-known company to us, great workforces in Seattle and Saigon, and a larger number of customers, but more concentrated in the kind of what I would call the mid-market space as opposed to the true enterprise space like Limeade.
So that's very helpful. Thanks, Henry. And I suppose just following on from that in terms of the cross-sell opportunity, is this, you've said that TINYpulse will stay as a standalone product or brand, I suppose, so it's kind of an upsell product to the enterprise solution. Are you able just to kind of quantify, I suppose, what percentage of TINYpulse's customers would be a natural fit for the enterprise solution you have, or is it kind of going down to more that 100K mark, which looks to be their kind of average contract size for your solution?
I would just say we're going to be very thoughtful and methodical about integrating the two companies and make sure we kind of maximize our shareholder value in the journey. So we will announce more in terms of financials. We have, in 2 days, we have our 4C, but in August we also have our mid-year announcement. So we'll probably share a little bit more about our expectations from the future in August. And maybe if there's anything to be announced in the interim, we'll announce it. So probably won't get into the details of the financial synergies with cross-sell and upsell on this call. I will say, though, that we believe that this is a way to strengthen our core market in well-being because we've done the research and know that companies who listen, learn from, and act on employee feedback actually have much higher participation rates in their well-being experiences. So we view this as a great opportunity to enhance our ability to quickly pulse people related to topics that drive our core market and our core business and well-being, whether that's in the enterprise or the mid-market over time.
Cool, thanks, Henry. I understand that obviously you've got the 4C in a couple of days. Just one last one from me. On the acquisition pipeline, obviously you've hit that one targeted acquisition for FY21, but the balance sheet flexibility is still there. Is M&A still a part of the growth strategy over the next 12 months?
Absolutely, yes. We've set a goal and shared it publicly with the markets that we hope to do one transaction this year. This transaction is expected to close in the near future. By the end of the month is what we've stated. And we are absolutely excited about this market in general and how much opportunity there is to do a better job for the future of work. I would just say that the COVID-19 has changed work and changed the world, and the market has shifted towards solutions that are focused on health and well-being and distributed teams. and Limeade needs to respond to that. And whether our return to growth is organic, inorganic, some combination of the two, we view both as options. We still have material cash on our balance sheet after this transaction and access to a $15 million credit line as well that remains untapped. So we will continue to look for the right, perfect cultural, strategic, technical, and financial fit for the company.
Thanks, Henry. Thanks, Todd. Congrats, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, if you wish to ask a question, please press *1 on your telephone and wait for your name to be announced. Your next question comes from Tim Lawson of Macquarie. Please go ahead.
Hi, Henry and Todd. Thanks for taking my questions. I've got a number of things hopefully I can run through. Just in terms of client overlap and client numbers, can you just share with us what that might be?
Well, as we stated, they have over 500 customers.
And the overlap with your existing client base for Limeade?
Yeah, I mean, there's some
overlap.
Minimal.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay. I can see, you can see that Microsoft is there. That's obviously a customer. You can also see the New South Wales government is a customer. So I'm just trying to understand from the TINYpulse website, just trying to understand the US versus international sort of split of the business.
They do have a global reach in their business. I know they do have customers in Australia as well, and throughout Asia Pacific, in Europe, and in North America. So, we are committed to being a global company in how we run our business and support global businesses as well. So,
so on the back of that, how do they distribute? Like, what's the sort of sales team look like at something like TINYpulse?
They have I would just say in general, without getting into specifics, we have more of the legacy Limeade company has more of a pure enterprise selling motion, longer sales cycles, et cetera. They can close and transact much more efficiently, using what you would expect from from a company that can sell to companies with 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 employees, a little more of a accelerated sales and launch cycle than Limeade has, with reduced seasonality.
Yeah, so if you think about the employee size of where sort of Limeade's been trending to versus TINYpulse, how does that, is TINYpulse more in that 500 to 1,000 type employee numbers, or you can obviously see Microsoft and the TINYpulse website, so obviously they've got a lot more than 1,000 employees, so just getting a feel for their mix of employee number by client.
Yeah, we'll be able to share more of that in the future.
Okay. And then just who's the buyer at the client? So is it the same buyer that makes a decision to make an enterprise decision with Limeade as also makes a decision to engage with TINYpulse?
Generally, Limeade sells to benefits buyers and HR buyers, and TINYpulse sells to HR and talent buyers, and in some cases, in smaller companies, to the executives of the company who want to have a direct, pulse on the feedback of their employees. So there's definitely overlap in the HR space as a core buyer, but I think there's different, non-overlapping areas as well, which we will explore over time.
Yeah. Is there any client concentration within TINYpulse?
Nothing material. Less than probably less concentrated than Limeade, given the customer counts and the distribution across those customers.
Yeah. Okay. And then just on the financials, just that you've given us the revenue number in the release, but the sort of growth rates, and is the sort of revenue that you've called out representative of the outlook, and what historical growth rates have been?
We'll be able to share more in August about future-facing statements. Todd, go ahead, please.
No, I was going to basically say exactly that. Yeah, we've shared, the continuing revenue and the adjusted EBITDA loss for 2020, and that's all we're prepared to speak to today. But certainly, as we get near the late August release and conference call, we'll have more information to share.
Okay. Maybe you can tell us on the EBITDA loss, is that representative of the cash flow? Like, is there a large sort of capitalization, or does the R&D go through the P&L?
Yeah, the adjusted EBITDA is very closely matched to their cash flow.
Okay. And just in terms of the transaction, you're funding it with cash. Is there any particular reason why you did all cash?
We have more than the cash that we need to fund our operations. So we viewed it as a great opportunity to take some of our balance sheet and use it to acquire what we feel is a fantastic asset.
And so the earn out effectively provides that alignment?
The earnout is tied to them growing the business over the next 18 months. So, depending on where they wind up in terms of that growth over that period of time, that'll dictate the ultimate consideration paid to the selling shareholders.
And that again is all cash?
That would be all cash, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm not sure it says in the release, but is there an indication of the upside that can be paid in terms of the earnout? What's the maximum possible additional earnout payment?
We're not going to share that today. Thank you.
Okay. And do you anticipate, given the offices are in the same city and not particularly far away, do you expect a sort of some synergies on a cost side, not necessarily people, but sort of office footprints and other cost savings?
I'll take that, Todd. I think over time, I think that's absolutely a possibility. We obviously need to honor our existing leases and commitments for both of the companies as well. But I do want to reiterate that Limeade continues to hire as will the combined entity. We have open job requisitions, and we are absolutely pursuing growth. So I think it's important to say there's no planned redundancies from a human being point of view starting out of the gate at all. So we're definitely focused on being growth companies and a combined growth company.
Yeah, and just last point of clarification, just on the revenue side, it's more sort of transactional. Is that the sort of right characteristics of the revenue?
It's a SaaS business. It's a pure software as a service recurring revenue business, and
okay. Yep.
And so yeah, it's a great high margin SaaS business. Sorry, go ahead, Todd.
No, again, I was going to say yes. They sell yearly and multi-year agreements that are recognized ratably over the contract period.
Right, okay. And just that, I'm not sure you'll share it, but the mix of yearly versus multi-year and how long the multi-year sort of lasts for?
Not going to share that today. We may share that in the future, but I don't think it would be terribly meaningful. You got to appreciate as well that their ASPs are considerably lower. So these aren't the types of deals that tend to lend themselves to multi-year agreements, but they absolutely certainly do have some.
Right, okay. And a sort of churn or customer retention type number?
Again, today, gross and net retention, we're not going to speak to. Once the transaction closes, we will definitely have some more information we can share.
Okay. Right, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, if you wish to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone and wait for your name to be announced. Your next question comes from Marco Correa of Perennial. Please go ahead.
Hi, Henry. Hi, Todd. Just one from me. Qualitatively, did they kind of go through a similar experience to you in 2020 where there might have been a bit of a slowdown given the COVID situation?
Yeah, I
was
would
just saying,
I
sorry, we're in different rooms, so different places. Todd, you go first.
Yeah, I wouldn't characterize, I don't think at this time we probably want to get into the revenues and were they increasing or decreasing over a period of time. Again, when we get further down the road of the transaction and we start communicating and providing guidance, we certainly can provide more information.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
I just think this is a premier employee listening company. It's an absolute pioneer in the concept of pulse surveys, which are slowly taking over or enhancing and filling in the gaps between the annual engagement survey. There are obvious ways that employee listening and well-being have high levels of synergy, and I think the reputation of this company is rare and special, and we're super excited to combine forces. I think COVID has been a challenge for a lot of companies, but we're committed to growth. We made the commitment, and we're going to fulfill that commitment.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, and just one more actually. Any and this might be answered in a later release, so that's fine. You can just say that. But the direct versus partnership mix in terms of go-to-market strategy, is it similar to Limeade, which is overweight direct?
Correct. Direct.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Once again, if you wish to ask a question, please press *1 on your telephone and wait for your name to be announced. We will now pause for a moment to allow for question registration. There are no further questions at this time. I'll now hand back to Mr. Albrecht for closing remarks.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Seth and Tim and Marco, for your questions. I would just say we hear you. We know that Limeade's made a commitment to be a growth company. We will continue to pursue all organic and inorganic means to grow. We're excited that the market has now shifted towards solutions that we believe are in our wheelhouse related to well-being, and looking forward to growth in future years as we pursue this awesome acquisition path. So thank you all for your time today. Cheers and have a wonderful day.
That does conclude our conference for today. Thank you for participating. You may now disconnect.